Adopt agenda. And one last.
I have one addition. I think I'd like to put under 10.3 informational items for just agricultural awareness, I guess. And then if there's no other additions, I will move the agenda to be approved with
10.3 on its agriculture awareness.
awareness. Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Quentin?
Mr. Nixon submitted a report from Clean Farms, but it didn't make the package, so if you guys want that, we can add it.
Oh, it didn't, okay. New business.
Either there or under 11 for reports.
Oh, yeah. 11.
Probably there at 11 for
I scribbled
reports.
on 11, so now I didn't see it. We'll go 11. Put Wayne's report. Yep. Anything else? Let's move it. All in favor? Carried. Adopt the minutes from February 24th. Larry? Any errors or omissions? No? Move it. All in favor? Here, moving right along here. Delegation Safe Farm Safety Center rep on Zoom. Are you ready for that? Or?
We are ready.
Yes, they are there. I believe we have Laura Nelson on the Zoom call, as well as probably Jordan as well. Jordan Jensen.
Okay.
Are we ready to go?
Welcome. Go ahead.
Well, thanks for inviting us, investing your time to hear a little bit more. I'm assuming that there's, Ryan and I chatted and he was saying that the ASB was just wanting a little more information about what we're currently doing in the world of COVID, and open to questions after we present a little bit of information. And we'll try not to take too much of your time. So the County of Stettler has supported our in-school safety smarts program before, in 4 different years. 2018 was the last, and contributions are always appreciated. Of course, as with everything else, in March 2020, our ability to go and deliver in school, face-to-face to children, ended with schools closing. Schools have had many challenges in between then and now. And as was mentioned in the letter that we sent in February, we didn't attempt to connect with them in any meaningful way in the very beginning of the 2020-2021 school year. We had put out some feelers and they had told us they were swamped and please don't attempt anything until 2021. So we started doing some fairly intensive training so that we could pivot to virtual delivery if that became a short-term necessity, and it has. So as of February 1st, we had a team trained and we began virtual delivery into individual classes of rural students in the schools we would typically have gone to face-to-face. We were able to visit 5 schools within the Stettler County boundaries before March of 2020. 4 were colony schools and 1 the Christ King Catholic School. Since we have begun delivery and booking for virtual delivery, Stettler Elementary has booked for virtual delivery April 7th, 8th, and 9th of this year. And I've actually been quite surprised, encouraged by how well virtual delivery has been accepted by the schools. 363 classes have already been reached, and we have another 500 to 600, it varies every day, classes booked for virtual delivery before the end of this school year, including 11 or 12 colonies, which again is I wasn't really expecting, but some have that appetite and are figuring out the technology. Our intention after COVID ends would be to return to face-to-face. You know, we've done that for 20 plus years and really feel that there's value with those regional instructors who have a farm safety background and passion for the industry, making that eye-to-eye contact and sharing stories and experiences with the children. So that's our intention long-term, once that's possible. Did you have any questions about the school program adaptations or
I just
how
had-
it's impacting things?
This is Dave Grover, the chair. The colony schools, I think we should too. That's what's gonna get to that, but, I wanted to know how many colonies and how many schools in the county of Stettler or the town have you done? You said, you went through that pretty fast.
In 2020,
Yep.
we were able to see before March 15th or 16th, the Christ King Catholic on January 27th. We saw 6 classes, 116 students. Erskine Colony School on January 20th, 12 students. Vymore Colony on January 20th, 27 students. That's pretty typical. We'll generally do a colony in the morning and then travel to another colony in the afternoon. White Sand Colony School on January 29th, 26 students, and Lone Pine Colony School on March the 4th, 18 students. And historically, you know, based on a 5-year average of delivery to schools within Stettler County boundaries, we would have expected to visit, you know, another 1,000 plus students between March and June, had the world continued on.
In the boundaries, a virtual thing this year, are you going to do all those schools in the county of Stettler?
Well, we've extended the invitation, and it
applied?
really is up to schools and individual classroom teachers whether it works with their time they have available, whether they have an appetite for virtual delivery. So it's not a whole lot different than when we do face-to-face. They extend the invitation, and then it's really up to the schools whether
Let's
they
be
make
put out
that
to them
investment
anyhow.
or not. Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna start this, and I should have done that right at the beginning. We're gonna start, introductions, and, you can do yours first.
Well, I'm Laura Nelson. I'm the Executive Director of the Farm Safety Center. For a few more days, I'm retiring, and Jordan Jensen will be assuming that role as of April 1st. So the two of us are here and happy to supply any information related to either of our extension programs that you may have.
Okay, I'll start with our, board, and I'll start with Ryan.
Hey Laura, it's Ryan Howlett, Manager of Ag Operations here.
Hey,
Pretty neat.
Big Grover, Chair.
Me and Nixon, Laura, we met about 13 or so years ago on one of the farm safety issues, yeah.
yeah. Time passes, doesn't it?
It sure does. You haven't changed, but I noticed I have.
Well, that's kind. I know I have too.
Hi, Laura. Les Stuhlberg.
James
Hello.
Nyberg. Laura.
Quentin Beaumont, Assistant Director of Operations. Eric Kushner, Manager of Information Services.
Larry Clark.
That's just for us. We've already introduced ourselves, so carry on.
So the Safety Smarts program, we are hopeful will continue for many years to come. We've asked the classroom teachers that are involved with this virtual delivery to give us some feedback. You know, we haven't wanted to be to require too much of them, so it's only a handful of questions that we've asked them. But the vast majority that have responded have said, and about 40% are responding, that, you know, what we're doing is engaging and informative for their students. About 75% report there's no technical issues with the Zoom, which means there are with about 25%. So we'll do what we can on our end. Sometimes it's on the school end as well. And about 70% have stated that they would like to return to face-to-face when that's possible. But that's surprised me. I thought it would be higher than that. I thought it would be in the 90, 95% that would say, let's go back to face-to-face. So we'll see how that trend goes as we get that input from more teachers. We're only, having input from 100 or so teachers right now, but that's kind of what we're asking so that we can improve and hopefully warrant the time that they invest, because farm safety isn't a curriculum issue for them. And they're always giving up time that they could be using for something else. And we appreciate that.
Questions, Wayne? Wayne has a question, right?
As you probably are aware of, Laura, through the RMA, we've been, we've had resolutions to make agriculture, I guess, is part of the curriculum in Alberta
Yeah.
schools, and it's been a hard sell. But if that were to come to pass eventually, that part of that could be farm safety as well. It's designed so because most of the kids anymore certainly are urban kids, just to
Right.
let them know where their food comes from, sort of thing. But that could be part of farm safety could be included in there too, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, the reality is that there are certain topics and circumstances that are very unique to children that may be, living on a working farm. But there's others that are shared pretty well across the board, depending whether you're, living in a small town or just visiting. ATVs come to mind. Horse incidents come to mind. Doesn't really matter where you may be living. And, riding of vehicles or doing activities that lead to concussions, that's the theme of our grade 6 presentation now is, protecting your head and preventing concussions. And that opens up a whole broad range of issues, and so we try not to be too narrow while still understanding that there are some very unique and meaningful and impactful risks that children from working farms, especially I would say on colonies, encounter on a regular basis, and we for sure don't want to forget them.
I have a comment and a question. My comment is I've heard students that have taken the safety course will go home and correct their parents on safety protocols that they're not following properly. So I think that's pretty cool. They're paying attention.
Yeah, like my grandkids correct me on my very minimal efforts to recycle. They're always helping me with that.
Okay. Yeah. So
We did an evaluation a number of years back, 2016-17, I think it was. First and only time there's been money available to have an external evaluator come and look at the in-school program. But we found that, as to your point, about 80% of the parents reported that their children had come home and had conversations with them or initiated conversations with them about farm safety. And we thought that was great.
Yeah, it definitely is. And my question is, do you envision after COVID that there will be like a dual system of the program where it will be in classroom and Zoom continue on for pretty much everything?
Well, that's a bit of a jello-y question. We're all swimming in it right now. But we may, for a number of reasons, offer virtual. There are some schools, I'll give the example of the Crete area. It's multiple hours for even our most northerly instructor to get to those schools in that area. And they will readily admit that few make that trek to get to them. So we maybe could more regularly reach them if, on alternate years or something, we were to do virtual. And, Jordan's going to be the one that's going to have to figure all that out. The other thing that may impact that is in October of 2020, somewhat out of the blue, we hadn't really heard any rumblings, but we got word from the government of Alberta that they were completely shutting down their farm safety department and program. So at the end of the year, all their people were gone. Their materials and printed things and their other resources that they had spent a fair amount of time and effort putting together over the years. We're split between 4-H, AgSafe, and ourselves. So we got a truckload, literally a truckload of materials that we've now made available on our website, the printed things, hoping that organizations will access those through us. But back to that point, they also let us know that they will no longer be funding anything to do with farm safety. They've kind of washed their hands of it as of the end of 2020. So a portion of our funding in the past has come from the provincial government. We've tried to wean ourselves away from it because we anticipated this day might come at some point. So the Safety Smarts program is, between 60 and 70% funded from other sources, including counties. Thank you. But still, that leaves us with a 34 or 40% deficit for that Safety Smarts program. So we may, we're already seeing just on 1 month is all that we really have data from in February, virtual delivery, that the per student cost will significantly reduce in that range of, probably we're looking at 50+%. And that relates to the amount of time and mileage costs for those instructors to travel to those schools. So sorry, that was a long answer to a short question, but.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And it is just, I guess, a further comment is oftentimes accidents that happen on farms are quite tragic. So I think it's very important to keep the safety message coming.
Yeah, well, my experience is that it often changes families and communities in a very lasting way, as people wish they could turn back the time and do it differently. So I've been, fairly passionate for a fair number of years on trying to reach as many children every year as we can. And we feel that repeated, while they're not receiving the same message every year, obviously, we do build all the way from kindergarten through grade 6 on certain themes so that we hope by the time they finish at the end of grade 6, they have pretty well, we've indoctrinated at least 2 or 3 things into their minds about, some actions that they may want to take or maybe think twice about not taking if the opportunities present themselves. Now, I know, Jordan, when and if we finish up talking about Safety Smarts, our in-school farm safety program, I know Jordan would appreciate a few minutes. He has been the program manager since 2014 for the Sustainable Farm Families program. And we licensed this program from a group in Australia who had attempted over the years to reach adult producers with safety and health messages with limited engagement on both. So they kind of brought it under one umbrella and included it in this program. And they had good success over a decade, and they were kind enough to license it to us. And Jordan and his team have been delivering that for the last number of years. So I know he'd like a few minutes, if possible, to chat about that as well.
Go ahead, Jordan.
Oh,
You got in on the big grower. You got in on the introductions, yes? You heard them all?
I a little bit. I was a little bit distracted. Somebody came into the office and needed some help, so I missed a little bit of it, but I think I'll be all right.
Carry on then. You're good. Go ahead.
All right. So yeah, since 2014, I've been with the Farm Safety Center managing the Sustainable Farm Families program. And as Laura mentioned, it came from Australia and it's geared towards educating adult farmers about health, well-being, and safety, with a large portion of that being health. So the way this program works is we take a team of registered nurses with us to colonies or family farms or to small communities, and we offer health assessments for people that register in the program. And in this health assessment, we measure things like blood pressure, cholesterol, blood sugar, bone density, visceral fat, metabolic age. There's a whole range of things. And then we use this information to help them get a picture of their current health status and then help them develop a personal action plan to take better care of their health, well-being, and safety. Now, in the past, this was done in a group setting where we'd have 20-some people in a room together after the assessments were all done, and we'd educate them as a group about what is cholesterol, where does it come from, what can you do to improve it, and as well as farm safety topics. But COVID has led to some adaptations to the program to allow us to continue delivery. So starting next month, we are going to offer adapted workshops to rural populations across Alberta, where they'll still get the same health assessment, but they'll get one-on-one education specific to their health assessment measurements. So for example, if during this assessment we uncover that they have high cholesterol, then we will identify that, help them understand possibly what it is in their genetics or their lifestyle or family history that leads to that high cholesterol, and help them develop a plan to take better care of it. We likewise will create a referral letter that gets sent to their family physician for further follow-up and diagnosis. And the whole premise of this program is that we're trying to help them take better care of the human resource and see the value in themselves. And many times people come into this workshop getting their assessment and they think, I'm fine, I'm healthy, there's nothing wrong, I'm able to do my job, all is good. But we uncover something that's not within the normal range. Sometimes their blood sugars are quite a bit higher than where it should be, and they're classified as pre-diabetic, or maybe it's their cholesterol or their blood pressure, or maybe it's a mental health issue. All of these things we're trying to uncover so that we can then encourage them and educate them on how to take a preventative approach to keep it from becoming a significant problem, so that they can then continue to do the work that's important to them without having to be reactive to a chronic disease. So it's very much a preventative program, and in many cases we find people that learn something new about their health status and they make changes, and then year over year they're able to see improvements. Part of the magic with this program is that there's 3 workshops done over a 3-year period. So if we do a workshop this April, we'll go back to that same group the following April, and we will do another workshop, another assessment for them, where they're able to compare their numbers year over year and see, okay, at the end of the first year, I set a goal to exercise more, to do meditation, and to eat a better diet, whatever it might be. And then they're able to see the fruits of their labors. So it's quite a rewarding program, both for my team and I, but as well for those that participate, as they're able to really see impactful changes in their lifestyle and how that's impacting their clinical health numbers. And they're able to improve their quality of life. And it's been very well received. We've done over 130 workshops, and we've reached 1,200 and some participants in the 7 years that we've been doing it. And we're just now partnering with counties, ag societies, producer groups to offer this program to people in your county, for example. So if Stettler County would be interested in this, I'd be happy to work with you to get it set up and to spread the word and offer this to people in your county. Does anybody have any questions?
James has one.
So, James Nyberg here. Just wondering, were you guys set up at the Ag Service Convention last year or the year?
In Banff?
Yeah.
Yes, we were there. We had a nurse, we had our scale. That was just a little snippet of what we would do at a workshop.
I didn't want to get on the scale because I didn't want to tell anybody how heavy I was.
Oh, it did, you did, didn't it? You only said one at a time?
Please get off me, was I think.
Yeah, the way we do these workshops now is they're one-on-one private, so it's up to you if you want to share your health assessment results with anybody else. We do encourage people to attend as couples if you have a spouse that's able to attend with you. That way you can encourage each other to make the changes that you desire and kind of be accountable one to another. But it's entirely confidential. We don't share your information with anybody.
What I found interesting on that was you set a timeline on my expiry date too, which was good.
Well, I can always
84 years old, and Ernie's going to die at 82, so I'm going to outlive him. That's good. I thought that you got a lot of attention at that convention with what you were doing.
Yes, it's very, very well received. People that participate in it generally find it to be a good use of their time, and they're happy with the education that they get from it and the change of course that they're able to make.
Anybody else? Yes.
Just a comment. Yeah, the farming lifestyle. I mean, with so much time spent in tractors and trucks and things, it can be very sedentary, and also the stress levels are pretty high sometimes in farming. So between those two, I think the health issues become a reality, and I think I can see the importance of being proactive rather than reactive on these things. So I think these workshops are probably an excellent idea.
Excellent, thank you.
Anybody else? No. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Chairman, before we let them go, I think the conversation that we had, we were talking about funding and what the situation was, and I think that's the biggest reason that we asked them here to speak about it.
Their funding, well, he's just starting, and she was the one doing the funding. She said the funding was about half of what it was a year ago because of the.
Or I think we were talking about the funding, what we were
Going to put in.
I mean, how it was
We
carryover, etc. was. So.
Will there be some carryover if you only cost you? That would be one of the questions. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I guess I'll ask that
Oh.
question.
Is that Cherie talking?
Was there a carryover from last year since the program had to be shut down because of COVID? Do you have funds?
We did have some funds left available, yes. And a portion of those were used for some of the activities that we felt were necessary to pivot and do things more based off of our website and virtually. So we did a number of video productions and capturing personal experience videos. We developed 60 or 70, I'm not exactly, can't quite remember the number of that, but worksheets so that teachers, once we knew we were going to have to go virtual, they would have resources at their fingertips from our website. In fact, we just got an email the other day from a teacher forwarded from one of our instructors just saying from our website she'd made an 8-page booklet for her grade 5 class so that after they had the virtual delivery, they'd have some work to do. So a portion of the funds that were not spent for delivery were spent in preparing for what the future seemed to hold.
So I mean, let's ask the question, or what's we want to donate to you guys again. We're definitely on board, but we also are we're in the same boat as everybody else, that we're looking after our pennies as much as we can. I realize that it's not going to be your small portion isn't going to make or break us, but it is, we have to look after our dimes so we can look after the dollars themselves, right? So,
sure. And I would assume,
what kind of money are you looking from last year that you saved
Bring forward.
to bring forward?
Sorry, again?
So what money did you save from last year's program that you're going to bring forward?
Yeah, well, I think we'd be easily in that $50,000 to $60,000 range saved.
No, I'm talking about our portion. What did we give you last year?
Well, what did you give us? You didn't give us anything since 2018. Okay. So in 2018,
say that solves the program then.
Last year.
Yeah, in 2018.
That's good information because we didn't have that.
Sorry, Wayne.
$3,489 in 2018. So that's the last monies from the county of Stettler.
Repeat that again, would you please?
Sure. In 2018, the county of Stettler supplied $3,489 to support the Safety Smarts delivery.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, in 2010, 11, and 12, you also provided support 3,200, 3,200, and 3,900 in those 3 years.
That's based on a per person that you've seen, I think, right?
Well, yeah, you know, when we started connecting with counties in, you know, the early 2000s and asked what what would you see this looking like if you were to help this program long-term? It was suggested by a number of ag fieldmen. Art Precheck at Red Deer County was very helpful because at that point wasn't that familiar with ag service boards and how they function. And so he did a lot of educating along with a few other ag fieldmen, but it was suggested that something concrete would be more acceptable across the board than, maybe wishes. So we have made for a number of years the request based on the formula of $3.50 per child reached within your boundaries. And that has been historically less than 50% of the actual costs when everything is factored in. But that's been the formula.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Wayne.
And that answers part of my question. So that is calculated in the recommendation.
There is not, we'd have to break it down region to region to get an exact cost per student because some regions, I'll give you an example, the southern region, we have over 70 colonies on the contact list for that instructor. But she has a very different day-to-day reality than some of the other instructors that really may only have a handful of colonies. So their typical day-to-day would be multiple classes in a single school and much less travel. So it's tough for us to give one number, but the per student across the province average is, depending on the year, in that $650 to $750 a student range.
I would like to fund the safety program amount that's in our,
Wayne, could you just hold on to that for 2 seconds after mine, please? If you,
He's up to. How about we come back to Wayne?
if I could, Mr. Nixon.
All right with you, Wayne?
So, Mr. Chairman, where I'm having some difficulty with this because I just looked up our request for decision at our last meeting, and we've said that that's an annual amount that we've been giving them. So I'm a little confused. I hope we have not shorted them for a clerical error or something.
Yes, if I could. Oh, that's my mistake. I was under the understanding that it was an annual funding item, but that was completely on me. It was my mistake.
What did we do the previous year? I could have swore that we've made motions to donate to this every year.
Right.
So 2018 was our last time that they did receive funding. 2019, we didn't receive the request until far after the budget was passed, and so that's why that wasn't included in that year. The year after, it just didn't get into our hands in time. So it was just we received it. I was looking at the information. I thought that it had been placed in the budget, and I didn't correlate that with the actual budget that was spent. So my mistake.
So Laurel, for your education, this is maybe something that's good. Budgets on counties are typically started in November and December. What's that? July. That's when you start building them. We don't get to see it till then. The request should come in sooner, I think. And if you were on top of that, I think that would alleviate some of your potential issues as going forward too. Just word to the wise.
Typically, for a number of years, we've sent out the letters early in January, so that when we go to the Ag Service Board conferences, if there's any questions regarding that request, we can answer them in person. So we were under the understanding that the counties wanted us to provide delivery information based on the calendar year. Well, the calendar year has to end in December before we can get all the numbers pulled together to send out in early January. So if we were to wanting to do that sooner, then we could definitely base delivery numbers on the school year, because that would give, allow more time. But that's typically, for a number of years, been our timeline. The letters go out by the second week of January, so that by the third or fourth week, when you have your Ag Service Board conference, we can physically be there with the booth and answer any questions you might have.
the school year would probably make more sense because like our Ag Service Board Director of Agriculture just said, they start in July. So that would almost be perfect timing for you guys to send that out.
This would be good news for Jordan because we've been creating dual reports for a number of years based on input that the counties wanted it by the calendar year. So we create one report for all other funders based on the school year and another report for counties after December ends based on the calendar year. So this is all great information for Jordan. He can move forward with that.
I think that makes sense, doesn't it? I see a lot of nodding of heads of my fellow board members.
Larry?
Good.
Yes, just a question, Laura, on corporate sponsorship now. How has that been with economy? Are you still seeing some? I know.
Well, we've moved away from naming large corporate sponsors. We've danced in that, on that floor before, and they always want a fair bit if they're going to contribute in a major way. So we've moved for the last number of years towards smaller contributions from corporations, and we have a handful of very committed corporate sponsors. We appreciate, some have given for 10, 11, 12 years and can pretty well count on them every year, and that's great. We have one endowment from a family who lost a son to a drowning, so they put a fairly large chunk of money, and we will get the interest from that money through the Lethbridge Community Foundation in perpetuity. So, we probably need to do more around corporations. We did lose a couple large corporate donations from oil and gas. Specifically, ConocoPhillips was a great supporter for a number of years, and they've pretty well left the province now. So at one point, they were contributing $75,000 a year cash towards Safety Smarts, plus in-kind support related to some of our handouts like pencils and things. So obviously we've had to adjust, and there were other oil and gas that really pretty well have dried up now.
I was just going to suggest some of the people that purchase those properties. I was very familiar with the ConocoPhillips piece and farm safety, and Synovus is a company that took a lot of that on. I don't know if you've contacted them, but it wouldn't hurt to make a call through their community relations.
We appreciate the input, and Jordan will make notes and move forward on that too. Yeah.
Sound like somebody that's on their last days there.
I am. Counting the days.
You sound a lot like Wayne.
Just a question on how you contact the schools. Now, you only contact individual schools, right? You don't talk to the boards or the administrations or.
Typically, our contact has been directly with individual school administrators or whatever the school wishes. Sometimes it's the principal or vice principal. Sometimes it's the secretary. Sometimes it's one teacher that's assigned. But we have not typically gone through the school divisions.
Because that might be a good route if you're having a hard time. Because I know if our board here wants to donate money, we want to see all of our schools and all of our students involved. Being able to, having the opportunity for this program. And sometimes when you get the support of your school administration and the board too, that helps.
Yeah. Well, I know that some do. And that's, again, something that maybe could be looked at in the future. Virtual is just different. And it's looking like we're going to visit in excess of 900 classrooms virtually by the end of June, which to me is amazing because I didn't even know if the schools would be interested or if they'd be sick of the whole screen thing and just say, wait until we can do it in person. So, I'm sure Jordan's noting all of this input and we'll figure out how is best to move forward. I do know we made the invitation in stages. So we sent out an invitation. We actually did a video and sent it to public schools initially in early February. And then later in the month, we did something similar for the colony teachers. And we had a colony up in Grandview Colony actually call and request a presentation before we had even let them know it was possible And when I talked to the teacher and asked, how did that work? He said, oh, our school division brought it forward in a meeting. So I think it might be filtering out, but we're not proactively doing that. And that's probably something we should look to in the future.
I think it'd be really good. You'd get more support.
Yeah. We don't typically lack for places to go. And these two instructors that we trained to do virtually, their calendars are full. So they are, I don't know that they have any time available from now to the end of June. And when we run with 8 instructors doing it physically face to face, they're very busy. So we're not typically looking necessarily for more schools. And sometimes it just doesn't work for a school in a given year, and so they won't accept the invitation, and we have to be okay with that.
Do you generally go January through June, or will you go September through December?
Typically, when it's been face-to-face for 20-some years, we start mid-September. They don't want to hear from us the first couple weeks of September. We learned that. So mid-September right through till mid-June. Again, second half of June, the kids, it's not good for anyone. But during that time period, mid-September to mid-June, we're available and have people, connecting.
Who's up next?
Hey, Laura, it's Ernie Gender. The businesses that are related to agriculture, is there much response from them supporting your?
Not as much, over the years as I would have hoped, actually. We've made attempts, but, they're a hard nut to crack.
It may not help or may not hurt. So like if we individually went around to see like whether it's going to be an ag services, anything that's got related to, I'll say agriculture, just to put a little seed in with them then.
Yeah. And my approach, and it may change in the future, my approach has been for this to be sustainable for decades more. I don't think it's wise to rely too much on any one particular funding source. So I had hoped, that by the time that I was gone, we would have 300, 400, 500 annual contributors each year. And we were getting close to that 300 mark before, things kind of changed with COVID. And personally, I think that's the way to go, is smaller contributions from more who have skin in the game. Like you said, there's lots of local businesses that rely on ag, and we wouldn't need a lot from any of them. And the program would not be reliant on the vagrancies of government and what they're thinking. Provincial government, I mean. I don't know why I don't see you guys as government, but not in the same way as provincial governments.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate that.
You actually have people with, feelings and connections to the community. I'm not so certain they
Don't just cut stuff to cut stuff is what we won't.
I don't know.
Okay.
I was very disappointed that people that have put decades into their farm safety work through the government were just all fired. That huge pool is just gone.
Laura, in a realistic figure, so it's $350 per person, but we're doing it virtual. What would you think would be a proper number?
Well, if we use that $3.50, but these would be for the students that we saw face to face in 2020. The number, and that was on the paperwork that would be $696 for 2021, based on that same formula.
600 and what?
If I can see, $696.50. If you do the math, 199 students were visited in person before COVID shut the schools. So it would be great if that were, possible.
That's where it would be, and then it would change if once this COVID goes west, and maybe the government to cut everything down will go west too. Who knows?
Well, time will tell.
Okay, now I'm going to give the floor, Wayne.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to actually make a motion that we support these to the recommended amount this year and reevaluate our at budget time next year for support for the next year. And this would be a council thing, but I think we that would be a pretty good spot for our rural development fund. But that would be a council decision, so not a board decision, but just to.
But it could be a board recommendation to council, right?
With the idea of reevaluating our position at budget time this coming year.
My question was to Wayne, is that the 3,400 that you were gonna suggest? Is that the 3,400 yours?
$696 until we reevaluate it at budget time.
We can make that motion as a board's recommendation to put forward to council, right? That's,
I'm just, I don't know, but I think that money is set aside already in our ASB.
service one. Go ahead.
That money is budgeted, set aside. You guys can make the decision here to allocate the money. It doesn't have.
Wayne just made the motion,
Which amount?
$696 and some cents.
But if we agree to do more next year, for example, and agree to take it out of the rural development fund instead of some of the money that we have in our ASB fund, we could make that decision. And that time as well, it'll be a council decision, but not a board decision.
You made the motion, Les, you want to talk to it?
I would, I'd be more comfortable with, being that we missed so many years, I'd be more comfortable with the contribution ending up to be the 3,400, or the recommendation, I guess, to council for 3,400. And if we wanted the 600 and some portion to come from ag services and the remainder to come from rural development. But I think that's what I would rather see.
That should go to council.
I think that was the recommendation I want sent to council, though, is 6 and the balance to make it 3,400 for the safety program. Because I think 600 is too late, because.
And I would accept that as a friendly amendment. So that would be $696 out of our budget amount. And then, but we'd have to decide at council whether we were going to top it off for the following bid. Yes, I'd certainly accept that as a friendly amendment.
And
Just for clarification, council has set aside about $4,000 for this farm center. That was what council budgeted when budget was passed. You guys can spend up to that much.
The entire amount could come from the council.
it come from county though, not from,
That amount can come from ag services.
Services.
that come from here. So we can make the motion today for the 3,400 and some. And
At budget time, you can decide if you want it to come from rural development or keep it coming out of ag.
motion is.
Well, maybe we should leave you and you can have those discussions, but we really appreciate your time and interest in farm safety. It's yesterday I picked up the mail and we had 9 checks come from different, 3 from colonies and 2 from towns and 2 from ag societies and 2 or 3 from counties. And I thought that's a great note for me to retire on, that there's interest across the province in helping things go right for farmers and their kids. So thank you very much for whatever is decided. Every dollar really is appreciated. And I think best if we leave while you have your financial discussions.
Okay. I would like to thank you as for the presentation, and Jordan too.
Take care.
And we'll see you next year. Thank you. Oh, I'll see you next year. Okay. There's a question for Wayne.
We're not really certain on what the amount is, but would we make it up to the height of the budgeted amount?
The 3,400 and something. Yeah.
I
I know what it is before.
that amount.
Back here, I'll look that up in a second.
33.95.
That
34. We could round it $5 too.
round it up.
What are we rounding it up to exactly? 3,400, as well as 696.50, or
All in.
all in 3,400. Okay.
Wayne, you made that motion?
Would that be your amendment to my motion?
Yeah, I think we need to bring it up to that requested amount, even though they had a little tough luck last year. I mean, they spent it on training and additional supplies, and they've lost funding other places, and we've missed a couple years, so I think 3,400 is appropriate. Yeah.
Bring it up to 3,400. Wayne, just Jamie, you're just gonna make that motion, right?
I'll accept that as a friendly amendment to my motion to talk about $3400.
Or Larry?
I also think too, with the money that they spent to put out virtual courses, I do think go forward, probably they'll see more and more of that and get more and more coverage. So I do think it's money well spent in getting kids to understand and go home and tell their parents what they should be doing.
The annual cost might go down a little because of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Good. Carry on.
What?
Does farm safety have any pamphlets or brochures that they would have made up that we could maybe just go around to the agricultural services in town and just kind of mention to them?
They said they had a whole bunch of brochures handed to them, so we can ask.
I'm sure we can get in touch with them. Sounds like they've got plenty of pamphlets that they could definitely pass our way, so we can get some of those and we can have them ourselves, and we can also distribute them.
Just for clarification on Ernie's question, were you meaning more like a safety pamphlet or more on a funding request fan? Oh,
It's everybody, like, whatever amount it is, everything is going to count. Just to show like the purpose of this, what this program really.
you are including piece in there for funding, like an opportunity to fund. I think that should be in there. You could highlight what they do and how they use funding. Yeah. If the businesses think that's important to their community, they can also fund it a little bit too. Yeah. I think that's probably good.
We've got a big corporation at Erskine right now that maybe should be, just showing that what it could do and what they could put back into all the agriculture community, not just this community.
That's a good idea.
That's the one out by the auction market that makes everything that doesn't go into town and goes back out into the rural.
And we really supported it through Conoco, and like she said, it was 75,000. We did videos. I pushed like hell for it though, because I said like oil isn't produced in downtown Calgary. This is part of it we touched on then was all the oil field stuff on properties. So the kids were aware of that through segments too. Don't go and play on, around the walking beams on where the horses' heads are going up and down, bringing oil out of the ground. As intriguing as it looks, stay away from it. Yeah.
Like she said, the program, I mean, even though it's targeted to farm children, it applies to everybody when it comes to thin ice or ATVs or something. A lot of them on holidays or whatever might be involved in those situations.
And I think maybe we should push our school board more presentations than last year.
And I don't know what proportion, but they were sponsored years ago, so whether they still are or not, I don't know.
Does the government support any safety programs for schools in the cities? That was for the rural, but anything say like in the cities where there's gonna be bicycles, crosswalks, anything like that?
Like Safety City and those things are all pretty well self-funded or community funded, eh?
Agricultural Service Board report. Be next. Go ahead.
So moving on to the report here. Starting at the top, strict on sales. They started to tick up here a bit. We sold 23.5 cases in between February 24th and March 16th. So that's after the cold snap finally. 23.5 cases. We've got about 12 booked for sale tomorrow. So they're definitely trending up. I know I saw my first gopher yesterday, so I imagine everybody else has started to see them. So I expect sales to come up quite a bit. Also, we have 186 cases. It's roughly 184 now. But we also did just receive our 25 additional cases that were on back order. So we have received our full order of 300 cases, and we currently have about 205 or 200 in stock right now. And so that's all we're gonna get. That's all.
Anybody in your area that should tell your ratepayers, neighbors that get in there and get it while it's still there?
As long as they need it.
If they need it.
If they need it.
Need it, why would they go get it if they didn't need it?
For next year. Well, you can use it next year.
Right, Ryan?
You can still use it next year, yes.
You use it next year. You can use it this year, next year.
But you're not gonna get any more.
We won't be able to buy it
Anymore. This is here, this is it. That's why I say if you,
Unless PMRA reverses their decision, this is it.
that's the only way, and it won't happen, I don't think. Go ahead, Ernie.
On the last email that we received from about 4 or 5 days ago, did it come up stating that they're quashing the?
There was nothing about a reversal of decision.
Go ahead.
Okay, moving on. We now have seasonal staff applications open for 2021. Those are being advertised on the Statler County website as well as in the Independent. There's a little bit of confusion last meeting. I said that we were going to have roughly 3 or 4 positions. I wasn't sure exactly. So our actual numbers, 2 positions are being advertised for roadside mowers and 4 positions are advertised for parks. Strictly for that. Any questions on that? Nope.
4 for the lake and 2 for everybody else, eh?
Wow, that lake country, they need a lot of mowing.
Not even paying attention, is he? Okay.
Yeah, the County of Stellar Agricultural Services Board bursary, we're accepting applications up until April 15th. We're advertising that in several places. Just waiting to see some applications here because that's a pretty good bursary for somebody going to college. It doesn't hurt, that's for sure. So please spread the word. Let's get, I hope we have 20 applications. That'd be great.
Good candidates for it. Good.
Moving on to gravel pit reclamation. I didn't include any aerial shots of these gravel pits because the pictures didn't look nice. I've looked in several different forums, as many aerial shots. You can find 5 or 6 different places to get aerial photos. But I was doing that and having to mishmash together several different formats. It didn't look good. I'm trying to find a way to make it look better. So I will include that in our next meeting. But for now, we just have these 4 pits here being listed, and we'll associate those with aerial photographs at our next meeting. We do have an additional sand pit that we will be seeding here in the next few weeks. We don't want to seed and then have it germinate just before. We don't want to get 2 inches of rain and then have it freeze the day after. So we're going to wait up until at least mid-April, possibly May, to seed this sand pit. But I do expect it looks fantastic right now. So if we can get some seed on it, it's going to catch, no problem.
Question. Is it sand pit where you're trying to redo it?
Yes, it's up in the Denell there.
The sand pit.
Put down matting to get it grow? Yes?
There
No?
was a sand pit that was opened up in 2009 for road sand.
Yeah.
They pulled 1,500 yards of sand out of it and stopped for whatever reason. I don't know, but so it's been reclaimed back to its natural slope of the land, waiting upon a land mixture.
My question was, you don't have to put matting down to get it to grow?
Shouldn't have to. There is some decent topsoil there.
It's black dirt. It looks like it'll be really easy.
Go ahead, Ernie.
So is there gonna be pasture?
It will be, we're putting it back to a hayland mix because that's originally what the field was a hay field. Yeah, it'll be an alfalfa grown crested wheatgrass mix probably.
There aren't gonna be any cattle on it.
No cow.
This will go back to the riders be hay with the rest of their land. It's only 3.5 acres or 4 acres. It's not very big. I think
So
it was
they're haying it, not pasturing it.
That's right.
Good. Clement pit, you got some literature back on it, yes, you said?
It has been submitted to an inspector. Now the inspector is reviewing the documents. I haven't been able to touch base. All the inspectors are working from home, so it's hard to touch base with them, but I did get notified that.
Now, right? It's up into the queue right now, right?
Yeah. I did get notification that it's in an inspector's hands, so.
Good.
That shouldn't be hard to get hold of, Quentin, because at least when we did have that conversation last month at the environment, it was that they're business as usual from their home offices with their numbers and everything.
Yeah. I've left a voicemail on her cell phone and emailed her, so I'm just.
Keep pushing it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Any other questions on pits? You're done?
That is the end of the admin report then.
You couldn't put the coon mowers in the, when it was burning down there?
Yeah, just make a pile, eh? Might have looked a little suspicious.
All right, I need a mover.
I'll give you that motion.
Approve the administration report.
Any other questions? All in favor? Carry. Move on.
Moving on to
I think
the,
we already made a decision on that, didn't we?
yeah, I was just gonna say,
Well, we're good. Just carry on past it.
at the last meeting, it was asked of us to bring forward what a service fee would look like for spraying just over the property line.
Property line, yeah.
Yep, just spraying over the property line of any brushing sites. So that's separate from our spraying of our side. And this doesn't include anything as far as spraying our ditches. This is starting at their property line and going roughly 22, 25 feet approximately, about 7 meters. And so we used some numbers just to try to get a rough idea of what the cost would be. And as well as we included an administration fee just to account for time in the office as well as any site visits that might have to happen beforehand. So just moving
Before
to,
you start there, you would, but when you would line them up, then you'd fill up a sprayer and then you would go once down there though, right?
exactly, so.
Not down there, back, forth, right?
Yeah, that would be pretty silly. I tried to make it as far as, I wanted to make it standard just because when we're trying to assess what's our average brushing site, well, you talk to anybody that's doing the brushing in the cat there, it's anywhere from 200 feet to half a mile to 2 miles. So we wanted to use just a half mile and we'll consider that a standard. Brushing sites can be anywhere, yeah, like I said, 200 feet to 2 miles.
Half a mile.
So we're using just 1/2 mile as a standard. And so just to break down some of the costs there, herbicide cost, it's roughly $90 an acre. These are all fairly approximate, but $90 an acre for brush herbicide that we would use. And we would be spraying roughly 1.4 acres if we're spraying 20 feet for a half mile. So about $126 per half mile.
Dave, I had a question, please. With this though, would we not be spraying this the same time we're spraying the ditch?
And that's the
Why
other
do we
thing.
have travel time and everything in here then?
Because it depends on what herbicide is applied. We cannot use an industrial registered herbicide on agricultural land. So we have to come back and switch our pods out.
That's
So no, they're
assuming,
not doing a bother there.
No, that's,
and that's assuming maybe we can find a herbicide that we could do that with, but that's just assuming that we would have to make a separate trip. I wanted to separate the cost of spraying our side from spraying any private land, just because they are two different things, trying to get an approximate cost. And actually, if we just skip over to the second page there, so it'd be the page with the table. Our travel to site, I used an approximate time of 1 hour, and that's half an hour there, half an hour back. That's just an approximate. All of these are pretty approximate, but that does give you an approximate number. If we're including travel time, that's 1 hour. The total cost to apply, $140 for the UTV as opposed to $154 for the roadside spraying unit. We can adjust those numbers all you want to. If we want to say, well, don't include travel time, we take that out, we can do that pretty quickly. So
It's just if we can find something where they can do it in one stop, that will be beneficial to everybody.
And we can likely do, we can do 10 sites in a day. If they're in one area, we can do 20 sites in a day, as long as they're close and not with the side-by-side. Side-by-side, the most you're gonna get is about between 5 and 8, again, depending how close they are. Just because of that unload time, strapping everything down, there is time associated with that. With the roadside truck, you can get several sites done in a day pretty quick, and that's what we've generally done in the past with our own brushing sites. But we have a site down south I can think of right now. The roadside, the ditch, just because of the slope, it's 50 feet wide. We can't reach over to the fence, so we would have to take the side-by-side down in order to actually get on their side of the property. So that's why I wanted to break down the side-by-side versus the roadside truck.
Okay, Ernie.
So you're saying that we can use the spray truck from the road in order to build it over top of the fence onto?
Depending on the road.
Depending on the road.
Yeah.
Depending on the road.
If you're at Botha where they farm right up to the side of the road, it's pretty easy, but
The only problem I see with that, is what happens for liabilities if we happen to get a bump in the road and it happens to spray further into the trees? Are we then gonna be held liable for the whole harmless going to assist us on that one there? If we
Well,
spray
harmless,
it-
you can do it.
If we overspray it.
Go ahead, Brent.
Hold harmless is gonna cover us for any kind of incidentals like that. Secondly, that's a pretty wicked bump to make that boom jump and hit something that we're not intending to spray. Because if there's any kind of brush nearby that they don't want sprayed, we're not using a
They
truck.
don't spray. You won't spray in front of houses.
No. We'll be using a handgun if it's close to brush they don't want done, because we can't afford to be spraying something that they didn't want sprayed and have a lawsuit.
They can also look at, there could be drifting of it. I just look at the liabilities that could possibly be there. I just want to make sure that our backside is covered.
We have insurance for those reasons. If it's too windy to use a truck, we're not using a truck. The truck won't leave the road and go off-roading. It's not designed for that. We'll end up wrecking our boom, so we'll use the side-by-side. We have a skid with a handgun on the back of a truck that we have to walk in. We can do that. We have other options to get around drifting, right? By use of a handgun. We're using larger water droplets, so we're not gonna have that drifting. We'll wait to make sure winds are favorable. If it's near sensitive areas.
As long as we cover it. Thanks, Vinny.
Anybody else? Got anything on this?
I guess 2 questions. Does our Ag Service Board have enough time to take on the extra private work? And how close can you spray? Because oftentimes I know some of ours, it's been sprayed, or I mean, the brushing has occurred by sloughs, and that's where all the trees are coming back, is around the sloughs. And how close can you spray to the slough?
Depending on the herbicide, you can spray within 1 meter.
Okay.
You have to select your herbicide for the area you're gonna work in. As far as can we handle the work, all we have to do is adjust the budget and add more people. That's what you want,
But
we'll adjust the budget.
You're
to
charging
affect
for
it.
this too. It's not like we're doing, it's not like it's coming out of there for nothing. Right?
Repeat that, sorry.
You're charging for this. So it's not like it's not like the other one where we're spraying in front of the person's land. We're not charging them for it.
Well, yeah, we're gonna
Well, there'll be a
charge for that cost.
There's some cost recovery to it.
Well, we only have some people hired, right?
Yeah.
So this year, our budget is set with the amount of people we have. We'll see how it goes, and if we have to adjust the budget to reflect what you guys want to do, we'll add a person next year.
Ernie?
So when a ratepayer requests this, do we give them an estimate, or is it a quote on it for whatever they're requesting?
I don't want to get stuck to a quote, because if our quote is low and we end up spraying more than we have to get the job done, we're gonna lose money. You want the tree sprayed, it's this much per hour plus chemical. And when our job is done, here's the bill.
Sounds good. Thanks, Quinn.
Brian?
I think that's kind of what we're trying to work out, what or what the goal is here, and what we want to put forward for this program. So if we're attaching a service fee to it, if we can adjust that fee based on the situation, that's great. A set fee would be nice, just because we're not trying to figure it out on the go every single time. But within those parameters, you know, the site has to look like this with X, 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 have to be all crossed. We're not trying to spray, you know, up a hill with a hand one for 2 miles straight. That's not going to fit within those parameters. I think if we have parameters that the site must fit and we can do it like this, then
How much and it's added cost.
exactly, we know kind of what the costs are going to be then. But if it's outside those parameters, then we shouldn't be losing a bunch of money on each site.
And I think you'd make the farmer aware what he's gonna be in for, and that's all you can do.
Exactly. And that would all be discussed
As long as
when
they
we're
know
signing
what
the
they're
whole
getting into.
harmonies.
I don't think they really care.
Keep in mind, they're not held to this, right? The farmer at any time can go by, graze on, they can buy 2,4-D, and they can do it themselves on their time, on their dollar,
Yeah.
when they want. They don't have to use us.
No, this is a service that we're giving through the Ag Service Board, right? Service, go ahead. Okay, good. Anybody else? 3.
Now, do you adjust the cost for the different herbicides that you use?
Yeah.
I just want to know that, make sure that wasn't a set.
No, our fee by law states it's so much per hour plus chemical. So depending on, from year to year, the same chemical costs different, right? And if the different herbicide, yeah, we'll adjust. There's always 2 lines when we invoice, it's so many hours, and so much herbicide. And that's when you look at the budget, you see sale of chemical. We're not UFA or nutrient selling Mr. Clark a jug of whatever. It's how much we used on that property, and it just goes to that GL line, right?
That's good.
Well, I think it'll help in the long run. I think this will clear up a lot of stuff. And we won't be going back and going back to the same spray. Do the same trees to be sprayed, just we're gonna kill them. On the other side of the deal, and then it got farmer, that's a service to the farmer, because then you can drive a quad or a truck down the inside of the fence, check the fence.
And keep in mind, it may take more than one application,
Fine.
right?
But it
We
would.
have to kill the root ball. The root ball is still there and it's still viable. It's gonna send up shoots. We gotta just keep applying until we kill the root ball.
You guys are farmers. Okay.
Just one other thing, I'm not sure if I put the actual numbers in there, but roughly, you know, we have at least 80 sites that were done this year for brushing requests, varying in size, obviously, but we might end up with 100 this year pretty easily. This is a different year. This is a bit higher than normal, but even if there's 60 sites, if 30 people wanted sites sprayed, if half of those required a UTV, that's 15 more sites that we would be visiting. So just so you guys have an idea of, you know, approximate numbers.
Wayne?
Mr. Chairman, through Ryan, would that work for, what's our bad weed? Wormwood as well.
Yeah, if we use the right herbicide, we'd be able to spray both, yeah.
With the same kind of policy, you know, to spray over the fence where if it was, you know,
Where it comes from the county
right
road.
out to the, past the road, the fence out of the ditch sort of thing.
We do offer private land spraying already, right?
Okay.
We didn't last year because of COVID, but we're still in COVID, but we can.
Because that's something that's even more important, I think, brush is to get kind of control of that weed.
Right, and if the herbicide is going to work for both, great. If we can do a tank mix at, you know, not a crazy cost, then sure. There's always a way to do it. You just gotta figure it out.
Okay.
Sounds good.
I think everybody's got all the information needed about the whole harmless agreement. Yes. Move on.
So actually, just before we move on,
Page 6.
before we move on, I just have
Okay,
a
go
question about that, sorry. Is there any direction you want us to take on that memo? That was just some information for everybody, just so everybody knew approximate numbers. Should we be taking any action based on that, or is that just received for information?
Okay, we need somebody to make a motion to take action on it. Ernie makes a motion. Any more talk, any more input into it, Wayne?
Just a question through to Ryan. Do you have any requests for spraying, onto the landowner side?
We had several requests for private land spraying last year. I can't recall exactly how many. And we would let them know that, sorry, we're not performing that this year. And we would pass their information along or pass them information for sprayers in the area. So I think some people have heard that we're not doing it anymore. Well, I would say, because I was the one telling them. But if the word gets out that we are performing this, and we would likely put this in the county connections, we would try to advertise the service if we are performing it, or at least letting the people know that are going to be impacted, people that are having brush sites brushed adjacent to their property, then I think we would see uptake for sure.
Good. Nothing else? Ernie's motion? Quentin's up. Sorry, buddy, you didn't see there. Your hand goes up and it's white over there. There. Yeah, you got her now. Yeah, okay. Go ahead.
Just for clarification.
I think there should be two separate motions. Well, one is your whole harmless is to spray over the fence and do that, and the other one is to do private land spraying again this year.
Well, there was never a motion to stop. It was just administration.
Okay, administration just decided not to do it. Okay, then we don't need
everything coming in. Just getting clarification on the action on this motion. Like, are we adding the $100 administration fee and we're setting, suggested these prices to go into this, or what? Just looking for a more clear direction on that.
All right.
I think we should investigate if there's any way that we can do it when we're there at the same time. Because if we can offer a service where we're spraying those trees that we've paid to brush already, it's a benefit to us also, so that we're not going back there in future years to work on it. So the most cost-effective way we can do it, and I don't know with your pods, I don't know how your trucks are set up, but if there is a way that we could switch the chemicals when we're there, it would certainly, I think, be beneficial.
When you're there, you're doing it. Move on.
If you have to take an ATV down separately, well, that is a separate issue, but the administration fee and stuff, like ag services, or are we trying to be ag non-services to try and price it so that people just don't get us to do it? Like, what are we trying to do here?
We want to compete with private companies. That's sort of what we've done forever. But no, I agree. But I think we need cost recovery on it.
Well, if we get paid our chemical and our time, if we're there, Wayne, we get cost recovery.
Yeah, but there would be a certain administrative fee as well, and it's pretty cheap, like $126 for a half a mile of spraying is pretty darn cheap.
That's just a spray.
But then we start looking at the additions and $100 administration fee, you bring it up.
Quentin, I'll let Quentin talk here because you got more information that's to put in and in.
As I talk, I'm just quickly trying to find a picture, just to get an idea in your head how the trucks are set up. Large water tank, separate chemical pods on the back of chemical pumps. I think there would be, so right now we carry two chemicals, one for weeds, one for brush. That's how we typically spray our roadsides. For sure on 277, we would have room for a third pod. I don't know about our other truck. I would have to go back and do some measuring, but we could buy another pump and pod and have two brush chemicals, one for ag, one for industrial. I can't even grab a number out of my.
I'd be all over that.
I can't even grab a number right now out of my head what a pump would cost. The pod wouldn't be much. It would be a couple $100, I'm sure. It's something we can definitely look at setting up. Maybe for 2022, we can budget for a third.
Would that be $1,000, Quentin?
I'm sure it'd be more than that, but I'm grabbing numbers out of my head, but a little, what looks like a trash pump for chemical is like $1,800. That's for a handgun. So we're talking about a system that plugs into our radar, plugs into our machine in the cab. that runs off toggle switches, it'll cost a little more. It's doable. It's definitely doable. I like the idea of having multiple pods that, whatever, even on roadside, we could have towed on 22K in one of them, and we see a patch of toad flax, we can swap herbicides from this weed killer to this weed killer and get toad flax instead of making.
So we rigged up one of those trucks this year. Would be way ahead of the program, because then when they're there, they could spray the stuff in our ditches, then spray the other while they're there.
And I would probably suggest we just do that to one truck.
Yep.
Because for some reason, then Ryan can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe we have in the budget to replace 273 in 2023 will be to replace the roadside spray truck. So I wouldn't put an extra sprayer on that truck just to replace it the following year.
Well, I wouldn't either, because that one can be just spraying weeds, and the other one can go down and spray that brush, but while it's there, there's no more travel time down there, we're already there.
Well, I would, in the future, I would have both trucks the same, because they do travel the entire third of the county, and if we're brushing over here and
But
over
for 1
here.
year, first year, or this year,
Why not bring it set up that way? I don't know what it costs. We can definitely have some emails and get an idea. I don't have a clue. Because it's been since 2014, so the last truck we did up, so.
long time ago.
That would be the best option, to have a third pod on there and then you just swap it. That's a simple switch in the cabin.
That makes common sense, and it becomes an ag service board again. Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, for sure. I kind of thinking we should almost bring back some more numbers to the next meeting. And we can put together something, but I guess in this description, I did, want to highlight that this was for one site, you're making one trip for one site, and that's not going to be the case in a lot of cases. We're going to, almost any case, we're going to be hitting multiple sites every single time. So it's going to change per site, but that is one thing that I put in there. So as well as a half mile. Not every site's going to be a half mile, but some sites are going to be bigger. These are definitely approximates. So if we want a service fee that's reflective, we can definitely come back and see if we can have the setup, the cost that it's going to need to set up any new equipment, and something that's reflective of a more average site. We can try to find something, but our numbers are going to be fairly close, and it's not going to be, it's not going to be down by half.
Why don't we just move this here and then we'll adjust the numbers if we need to adjust the numbers? Would you be good with that, Wayne? Or who's making the motion?
Whatever the case is, I think we need, we gotta make sure we get cost recovery at the very least. And that's, and I think we probably need an administrative fee in there as well. That's my feeling, some kind of administrative fee, just so we're not competing with the public sector and, or the private sector, pardon me, and well, we have cost recovery.
We're only going to go 6 meters out of the road. We're not going out into the thing and spraying trees, are we? No. Go ahead.
I would just caution on making it too cheap, because it's a private landowner's responsibility on his property. And if we can do it, fine, but I don't think we want to underprice it, or nobody will do their own work ever if it's going to be cheaper for the county. So I think we need to make sure there's a reasonable fee attached.
We're down there spraying our ditch that we cleared of trees, and spraying their ditch, their side of the fence at the same time. So I don't think it's unreasonable to do it at whatever our cost is. They all do pay a user fee already, or administration fee, and that would be called their taxes. So it's benefit to our taxpayers. If it's not cost, I'm in full agreement. Don't give it to them, but charge cost.
I'm agreeing with that it
has to be well covered, because our taxes aren't covering it as it is. We keep adding more and more and more. With less and less taxes, it doesn't work out financially.
If you're called out to spray, it would be a different situation, less if it's just specific to spray that farmer's place. But if we're out there doing it, and it's where we've brushed and it's where we've did that stuff, that's where it's the pot on there already.
But a lot of them,
there's gonna be a lot of cases, if we ought to offer this service, there's gonna be a lot of cases where the county has controlled the trees on their side of the road and they're totally dead. But the ones on the fence side are gonna be fairly tall already, and if this service is offered, they're gonna want them now done.
We don't spray them after they get to be certain, or we're not gonna bump the boom down or sprayer, right?
There'll be calls where you'll be going where you're not gonna be there anyway.
Which one's up next, Lloyd? Go ahead, Jamie, you just come back. Go ahead.
So, and I'm with that. If we're already there, that's one story, but if we're gonna be called out, that cost recovery, I mean, there's always a setup fee, no matter what operation you are doing, there is a setup fee and there's a staging fee in everything we do. There's a cost of moving a piece of equipment from A to B.
That's in here already.
No, but what I'm saying, that cost is being, that staging cost is put in there at that time that we're already there. If it's an add-on, that's okay, but if we're going out directly to do this,
Oh, yeah.
why doesn't he phone Combat Spraying to spray out his fence line? Right? And that's, you are going to be in direct competition with businesses that are paying taxes to the county of Stettler, and that I have a problem with. So, I don't know. It is a tough one for me.
Well, when we're there, we're going 7 meters, 21 feet. We don't go anymore.
And I get that,
If I'm
but,
getting them to spray
That brush pile out, then I'll get,
but if we have to
I'll
go,
either do it myself, or I'll get Combat, or I'll get, Corley or whoever to come in. If I'm gonna spray brush out, I usually get them.
but what I'm saying is if we have to go back and do it, that's a no-go for me. But if it's while we're there, I can.
Well, then go back and do it if you charge them for it, what difference it makes?
Because if you're going back and doing it, that is direct competition to Corley and to Combat, to the spraying companies.
So when you were not here, you decided about putting another pod on the sprayer so that they can run chemical that can be sprayed over the fence.
I listened to that, yeah, I heard that.
Okay.
The common sense comment, I heard it.
That's it, because we become an ag service board again. Okay, so where are we at on this? Go ahead.
But it's also one, I believe that the landowners can recognize that the county has paid and done all the brushing on theirs, which is on the spraying end. It would be very minimal for them to be able to pick that part up compared to say like the brushing part. Myself, I'd be very pleased to pay for whatever it's gonna cost for the spraying on it. If I had that amount of brushing done, so I could have a decent fence put in. I find it's very minimal compared to the brushing end.
Now
We have a motion or no, we don't have one?
Who made it?
Mr. Gender was making.
Gander made the motion. To,
I think for ag services to bring back some rates for, as what they have proposed, and it can be debatable. Give us some sort of a line to work with.
Right.
We could bring back several, I guess, proposals. So, like Larry and James have said, we're traveling to some of these sites already. All of them will be sprayed. It's just a matter of which ones will be sprayed together and whatnot. We could bring back a proposal where we don't include the travel cost, or we include it broken down over a series of sites. So it won't be 1 hour travel to one site. It'll be 1 hour travel to, say, 5 sites, 10 sites, just to get some examples of approximate costs. We could not include travel. If we're already going to these sites, we're already covering it ourselves. There's a few options out there. If there's site with side by side to spray, that's going to be, you're not going to get more than several sites, 2 or 3 sites in a day, because of that setup, takedown. There's more cost there. So we can try to work this out. We could even have some parameters. The site has to look, it has to be a half mile, 27 meters. You have to be able to spray it from the roadside, no problem. That is a very easy site to do the
what about
math.
a quarter mile and that's all the brush that's there? So
That's an option too. We could break it down by quarter mile instead. They're all options, and we can bring back a few just to be a little more representative.
Bring back. Clinton?
So, just for clarification, we have a bunch of rates already. Our side-by-side is $80 per hour plus chemical. Our roadside is $140 an hour plus chemical. If that's what you want, if like, no administration fees, no nothing, that's what will be right there. That's in the fees bylaw. Was that what you were asking for?
So administration, is that going to be including the hold harmless agreements? Or anything to do with administration? Over and above, say like what we would normally do spraying the road.
At the time of brushing, we can go out with the hold harmless agreement, get everything signed up at once.
I guess I would leave it with you and whatever you believe is, would be an extra cost over and above what we would normally do. Bring that over and above cost backwards.
If like, for the sites that you're there already, if we're $140 an hour and for the truck, you know, like the side by side to me is a conversation. If you have to haul it out there, that's what we're billing it at. But the truck, if you sprayed the ditch and then you're making another pass to spray over the fence, whatever your time is and whatever your chemical is,
That's what it can be.
you're there. We're sitting there already.
that truck won't cut in much into the private sector either.
And that's where I'm saying it will if we have, if in the past, I'm thinking of that 2 years ago sprayed out, and now they say, well, I want the county of Stettler to come back and do and that's where I have a problem. Going forward, you have two options. While we're there, we'll spray it, and this is going to be the cost. If you say no,
then I pay for it to come back out, that's common sense.
that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. Because of the simple fact is because I'll go, no, I don't want it. And then I notice, holy crap, I see the county side, they don't have any trees. And then on my side, I got a bunch of trees.
But wouldn't that be a private land spraying issue at that point?
That's what I'm saying. I don't want the confusion between the two.
That would be completely different in my mind. And maybe I'm wrong, but that, if Mr. Clark said
Well, what they
no
were
to
saying is-
spraying brush on his land, and then 2 years later said, I need some brush sprayed out, we're coming out with options. You can rent my field sprayer, or we can do our side-by-side. These are our rates. Nothing to do with the roadside spray brushing.
But the 60 sites you said that you have to spray this year, you would get a hold of those guys and see if they wanted a hold harmless agreement? 60 phone calls. No. Maybe some bunch, well, like on Webster's there, they want a bunch done. One phone call to Dave and that does a mile. 2, 3 different sites. Go ahead, Larry.
Well, we talk about competition with local vendors and stuff too, but you know, it depends on what you're doing. If you're doing field spraying, it's one thing, but if you're spraying off a road, some have the side sprayer, but to reach 21 or 7 meters is going to be quite a spray going on a truck.
A lot of them are using.
So Coralie can't do that.
She could. I mean, I don't know about Coralie setup, but I know Combat, they roll a hose off and they've got the gun and they just go through with the gun.
Well, they had to walk down, but this is driving down the road.
I know, I'm just saying, they have the capability of doing it.
It's not comparing an apple to an apple. You may be having a box of grapes that you're looking at, so.
I'm not understanding what you're saying.
I'm saying that if you're gonna pay somebody to walk and spray, you're gonna pay a lot more money. But if you can drive down the road when you're doing it and spray in that extra meterage.
I get it, but that's the cost of doing business. Unfortunately, Larry, that you would basically say to if you were asking me, now it's even worse because not only am I cutting them out of business, but I'm also cutting the cost of them out of business. So we're saying we're going to do this, plus we're going to do it cheaper than you.
You pick the phone up and phone one of them for agriculture spraying and see what the answer is.
I have.
I have to.
So what are you saying? What are you saying?
They don't really wrap their arms around agriculture spraying. They almost convince you to go in another direction. So.
Well, I don't know about that. I've had both out at my place, and I haven't had an issue with that.
Coralie last fall, and it was for cost prohibitive, is what she stated with her side by side. So.
I get the same thing, but whatever. I phoned Roddy and he couldn't come for early. He's not gonna leave them leases where he gets the good money out of. Until they get done, then and maybe we can work in the fall, maybe not. But we're talking about what we're doing here at the county, so. Carrie?
I guess it's also one of those, if we have 60 of them, is Quentin and Ryan going to phone everyone? So like the time it's going to take in order to build it, phone them, and then go out, it's almost like looking for work. Are we really looking for that?
Well, it's just if they want to sprayed or don't want to sprayed. Simple yes, no.
Can we really take it on though?
Well, we're already there. Well, yeah, I would think so.
It's almost one of those, be aware of what we want to wish for.
It's almost like down in Belky Pond, I'd like to be able to see it improved a little bit. But Christ, there could come a time we'll say, why the hell did we do it?
You gotta fix it down first. Different story.
This could end up with a lot of unwanteds down there.
Moving on, so what are we doing here? Are we gonna bring this back?
To the next meeting then? Is that what I'm hearing from everybody?
So,
I think so. Let's make that motion, bring it back next meeting.
with all the information
Different scenarios.
and scenarios.
Les Hoover?
Pretty
Mark's making a motion. I was gonna take it away from him because he was pretty wishy-washy.
Okay, Rick's making a motion.
We had a motion.
Okay, it was so long ago,
I forgot. They're gonna bring it back to the next meeting with more costs. And the cost of putting another pot on the sprayer. Only one sprayer, though, not both. Okay. All in favor? Carried. Moving on.
All right, moving on to, yes, item 7.2. Here, I'm not sure if everybody can see it, our club route positive tests 2012 through 2020 map. Jared, would you be able to bring that up?
You mean the next page?
Yes.
Yeah. Right on.
Really only need the top half, I guess.
Yeah, we got it.
Can everybody see it?
Yeah.
Perfect. So, after removing the grid lines, the villages, towns, and rail lines, it's impossible to identify these sites. So, that is why we felt comfortable to bring them forward just to show where we are as a county with club route. These are positively identified sites throughout the county of Stettler. And actually, Jared, if you go down just a hair, there we go.
There's one in no man's land.
I know, then that no man's land has a couple of lakes there that kind of tells you where it's at too. So.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I don't know about that. But we do have positives in a couple of new sites here. So I guess I should say one new site. If you go following by the grid, 2014, we found several out in the Erskine area. Now, 2020, we're finding it more to the southeast. Both sites that we found this year were southeast of town, as well as the year before that, it was east of town. So just for information, it's out there. You know, we have localized hotspots, but that being said, we have it just over the southern border on our neighbors down in Starland. We have it on the west side. We have it on the southwest side. I wouldn't say that any one region has a higher incidence of finding it anymore, because whenever I go down to Erskine or Denell, if I'm checking fields, I used to expect to find it wherever I went. I don't so much expect that now, because I shouldn't say everybody, most producers are using club root resistant varieties. Everybody's aware of it. It's been around for a decade now at this point. People know how to deal with it. So you're definitely not finding, and again, I shouldn't say definitely, but you're not finding as much in those areas. The new areas that I'm finding it in, there are areas where it hasn't been before, and the difference is 10 miles. We're talking 10 miles of difference, but it makes a difference in the mindset. Where I'm finding it, they weren't using varieties that were resistant to club root, number one. They farmed in several different areas, and or they had relatives that lived up in those different areas. That's number two. So it's nobody's fault. Things happen, but just for your information, that's kind of what we're dealing with out there.
Mr. Nyberg.
So, Brian, what was the percentage, and you may not know this, but what was our percentage of canola that was planted last year?
Percentage of canola out of all of our cropland fields?
Yeah, like, it just makes me wonder, you know, if we have, the percentage goes up by 10% and club root goes up by 10%, that's understandable. But if club root goes up by 10% and we're actually down 10% in planting, that's a concern to me, right? That means we've got a issue in our existing situation. That's my concern. But if you're up 10% in the amount of plants and you're up 10% on the amount of infection, you're par for the course. Right? To just say, well, if you're up 10% this year over last year, well, are there other mitigating factors?
Right. So one thing I'll point out right now, 2018, we found it was either 9 or 10 fields. That was crazy. It felt like we were just out of control. That being said, I think it was just a weird year. We hit the right fields. We had 3 people inspecting, and we were able to cover a lot of ground right at the right time. And we were in areas where those producers weren't using club root resistant varieties. They were new producers that hadn't had club root before. It was just a lot of factors combining to make just, I want to call it a terrible year, but we just found more club root. The last 2 years, I found 1 to 2 fields.
So the new producers that are not using club root varieties, can you give me a little bit of an idea, somebody, what's the cost of going to a club root variety versus what a conventional variety would be?
Roughly the same. Wouldn't be a big difference.
So why are they not going that route? We know we have it in our county. Like if my neighbor's got it, I'm thinking I'm going the club root resistant variety because I don't want the crap.
In my experience, people think that it is a lower, like there's going to be a yield decrease, yield drag. That's not really the case anymore. Maybe it was 5 years ago, but it's not. It doesn't. There's not a huge cost to going with a resistant variety anymore, as far as either yield or just the cost of the seed. Maybe it was 5 years ago. Like 234 PC is not that great. It is. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But if you're looking at yield comparisons between varieties, it's going to say, oh, it's only 99% of the most current variety, which is that much better. You're talking about 1/10 of a bushel, but it looks bad when you're comparing. So I would say it's just getting educated on what the difference is between the varieties, the costs, and once you see the comparison, there's really it's a no-brainer compared to what the costs are with none.
Larry, so just though with the different varieties that are out there, and maybe how do we message this out? Because when I start to see 2020 down in this corner and see it may have been quite a bit higher up in the years, but down in the other corner, people hear it within a group and are really going to be concerned. But I mean, my area, I never heard that there was any in my area. So how do we get people to become aware and to start better practices to try and keep it out?
We have had club root updates in the past. The last one that we held got canceled for lack of participation. Yeah. So I will say that there is plenty of people, plenty of organizations, plenty of companies out there that are selling seed that will tell you to buy a club root resistant variety. If you're growing canola, you are very well aware of this stuff. It might just be, and this is kind of what my understanding was up north, it's just accepted as common practice now. Up around the Edmonton area, you're not going to go grow canola without it because you wouldn't have a crop. But it's just getting to that point where everybody's pretty comfortable with it in these areas, obviously, where club root's common. And it just takes time for people to change their habits. Nobody likes change.
But to get us everybody prudent in it, we're going to have dogs all over the map before that happens, apparently. So
maybe.
Yeah.
I'll turn the chair back to Mr. Grover, and Mr. Nyberg has a question.
Mr. Nyberg,
So up north,
does it get to the point where we spend a lot of time on this, and it's always been my contention that I think farmers are doing a good job if we just let them. Why are we doing it? If everybody knows you've got it, everybody knows you should be protecting yourself, why are we spending as much time with this as we are? It's pretty much common practice up north now. You basically should just be farming under the practice. It's here, you've got it, deal with it. It's no different than blackleg or any of the other ones that we've had in the past where it's just there now.
But some, for $6 a bag, will see the other stuff.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So why are we as a county spending as much time as we are on this? What are they doing up north? Are they still inspecting fields?
Up north around Leduc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But why?
Just for several reasons. So we want to track the spread. Leduc is a bad example because they're, ground zero. Camrose last year, they did a kind of a blitz. They found 100 extra fields. It was, okay, they did a lot of inspections, but it just shows how far that, you want to have an accurate depiction of what's going on out there.
So what, okay, why?
So why is the municipality, well, we're
No,
enforcing.
why are we doing that?
Because if you got club root, I don't know you have club root. You're farming fence to fence with me.
Exactly, but I'll tell you what, I'm gonna be planting resistant clubroot anyways. Proper practice should be, everybody should be wearing a condom. We're all gonna be in this orgy together, we might as well be wearing condoms, let's be.
Right, and I'm right beside you, and I was gonna put canola in there, I couldn't. If I was the operator, I wouldn't put canola right beside you.
And that's what I'm saying, I think it's gone, we've matured past the point that it is the farmer's responsibility. We're spending a lot of time on this for.
I got him, and Quentin. Quentin wants to put information in here. Go ahead, Tree. And we got Wayne and
I
Quentin.
think, putting it in our county connections, telling people about it, but you're right, farmers do go in and when they're buying seed, they talk to their advisor and they help them through it. I mean, in the early days, nobody was told where it was, nobody knew where it was, but yet rumors started going around and that's how they found out. But now, I think a lot of farmers when you see these spots on here, a lot of farmers are actually planting club root resistant canola, so. But, it's part of our ag service. We let people know we're inspecting fields and obviously we still need to get out there and let them know, so.
Well, I think it's important that we check, that the egg service fieldmen check the fields. And the reason is that because a lot of people know they have club root. Some of the seed and fertilizer growers and things like that, who are maybe not obligated to say, they say, I think you maybe got some club root there. And they will go ahead and harvest that. They wait there maybe 1 or 2 years, and especially now this year with canola $13 bushel, they're going to put it back in again. And that resistant club root is not going to stay resistant too long. So I think it's very important that we keep checking.
But can I just ask the question? Again, as the farmer, I'm having a little bit of a hard time with this because if I knew I had a problem within my sheep, I would get rid of that problem. The diseased problem would be gone from my program and then I would vaccinate for everything. And I look at this club root resistance as a vaccination. I'm not a crop guy. I'm more of an animal guy. So I'm having that little bit of problem understanding why, my vet or my advisor should be telling me, you know what? I know that there's people around you that have this. You should be vaccinating for this.
Well, of
So
course.
why does it, I just wonder why we're putting out that much expense to handle this. That's all.
It's a soil period in soil, spore or whatever, so it's going to be there, and you can't kill it, you just reduce it naturally over the years by using.
I think you can spray it, we eliminate it.
I just use that as one,
Yeah, we
eliminate it. Go ahead, Glenn.
What do you as a board want us to do? That's what I'm asking. I mean, clubroot is a pest under the Agricultural Pest Act. Rats are a pest under the Agricultural Pest Act. The province has these acts in place and we're inspectors under those acts. No different than weeds. Why am I going on to Mr. Grover's property to look for Canada thistle, absinthe wormwood, common tansy, yellow toad flax? I'm trying to stop. They love me. I'm trying to stop the spread of it.
But the sheep on them and eat them.
Yeah, they will.
As per, I agree with what James is saying too, and what you're saying, Dave, to the fact that you said you may not seed canola right beside your neighbor. But here we got a grid map that doesn't, we don't, I know we can't flag it and throw it on the news, but I mean, on the same sense, I know in our area somewhere we got it. But that doesn't do us a damn bit of good, other than our ag guys know where to check after that.
And the 3 red ones there, that could be one farmer.
Yeah.
So keep in mind, if we found a positive field southwest of 111, right? For every adjacent quarter, they get a letter saying
You get it
in the area.
Okay, for every,
If you unluckily are 2 quarters away, you're not gonna know.
but you got those trucks and equipment and everything traveling the roads. It's not like oil field. They don't spray their equipment off when they leave their fields.
No, they don't. I mean, right now, I think being 35 with all the trucks running up and down there, I am sure that we are going to get an abundant of, on the edge of that road, there is going to be stuff that shows up that hasn't been there for a very long time, right? Just saying. As much as we try to tarp our loads and don't have any grain laying on top or on the edge, it's there. Everybody knows you drive behind the odd grain truck, there's gonna be stuff falling off. So how long is it before it?
We try to minimize it.
So like you try to keep it from spreading so that people can grow canola. When it's $18 a bushel for more years, maybe.
But if I was the farmer on the edge of 835 with my quarter section.
I've never seen anything against it.
No, I would seed it, but it would be definitely with resistance and it would definitely be on a proper rotation. Those guys that are out there on the edge that are somewhere else, well, maybe you might want to try and get away with it, but everybody talks to their neighbors. And I mean, you don't want to tell them that you got it, but I mean, guys know.
The one that was right here by town was wheat, canola, wheat, canola, wheat, canola. That's all he did. He's no longer with us, so he don't care.
I don't know.
But it is.
Our rats are paid for by the province too. You guys actually, I received no money from the province. They helped you. They give you trap. They get free poison. The 300 man hours I spent was not paid by the province.
They're done visiting. Go ahead, Tree.
I think we still need to inspect. Like you said, this is under the Pest Act. We need to.
And I like it that the farmers
Yeah.
are notified.
Well, we can inform people. So. Yeah, I think that's our responsibility to keep on inspecting. And like James said, yeah, we might find more stuff along our highways. It's not just the grain, it's the hay that's out there too. That's, spreading around. That's people are hauling it. So.
That one little dot that's in my area, how many other quarters does that farmer farm? That's my question. And you might have phoned the ones right around that quarter, but what about every other quarter that they got? That they supply canola on? That to me is until we get this whole thing full of dots. Keep watching it, they got dots all over the damn place.
But shouldn't everybody just be considering that you got it? Once the county's got it, it's at that point.
That's where the words are.
But that's what I'm saying. When do we stop even worrying about it anymore and just say, you know what? You guys need to deal with it. Like your canola crop comes up with 20 bushels to the acre. I'm sorry. Yeah, you got club root. Absolutely. Sucks to be you. You've known for a very long time that you cannot go wheat canola. Guess what? You're either going to pay the piper now or later.
But it's a good farmer to pay for that.
I'll argue that point. It's a good farmer to pay for that.
I don't see
crop insurance
in this disease because
they're putting out the extra money for that crop resistant stuff there.
$6 a bag.
They're doing the right rotation, and now this dude isn't.
But he pays for it.
No, they pay for it because all the AFSC's insurance goes down like this here. So the good guy is paying for it. So
I
then
don't
when
think
you
we're
get
gonna be
it out,
able, I don't think we're gonna be able to straighten out the bad farmers.
at least we can know whether they have it or not.
Go ahead.
You know, and I can't recall what year it was. We had a farmer, we notified him that they had club root. And the first words out of his mouth were, it's about time we found it. I've been over 6 years. But just by luck of rotation and luck of random inspections, that was the first time we hit that field. Just like the common cold to him. But the next guy, right, is scared because he doesn't want it. Next guy thinks he's gonna lose his entire farm if everybody finds out. Like, we're all over the map, so part of our mission is to educate the public. We're trying to make sure that, and we're talking about a disease that's been a pest since 2008, right? We've known it was in Alberta since 2003. In Europe, it's been around since the 1700s.
Franchies.
If they could get something to mix in the soil, then they could kill
Oh,
it.
I'm looking at you, Mr. Gender.
All right, now, no name calling.
The dandelion.
Are you Frenchman bingo or anyhow? No. Okay, I think we talked it down to death, so we should be good. Budget year to date.
Mr. Grover, I'll move that report be accepted.
You'll move the last one?
Yeah.
The year to date budget?
Ryan's report.
Oh, Ryan's report. All in favor? Carried. Club when she moved. Yeah. And Lane will move the financial? All in favor? Carried. Oh, we're moving right along now. Oh, root rot. That is root rot. That's the common name for it. I'm sorry. That's what I asked when you first brought it up. The P thing, it's been around for a long time.
Go ahead, Ryan, you talked it.
Oh yeah, James, I believe you brought up Phantomyces root rot in peas. And so the basic question is, do we have it here? What is it? Why is it such, causing a stir? It's because it's becoming very common in Saskatchewan, and because they're used to certain types of root rot, which they now have seed treatments for. This has kind of emerged as a real problem because there's no seed treatment for it, for this specific strain of root rot. And so once you find it in a field, other than rotation, there's no way to deal with it. Very similar to club root. Except in the case that they're recommending a 6-year rotation with no peas, just to avoid increasing the spore load. So.
Is there anything else that it will take up, like peas and?
Legumes, yeah.
Legumes, okay. So.
You seeded the grass.
So what about some of the hay varieties? Do they consider them in that?
Are you talking about alfalfa in particular?
Yeah. Well, in that, what's the other one, the Russian milk vetch or whatever it is, or?
To be honest, I'm not.
Spicer milk bed?
Yeah. Is that similar? Like,
No, that's a grass, no.
I can't remember. We talked about that.
Spicer milk vetch is nitrogen fixing, but to be honest, I'm not 100% sure about alfalfa and Spicer milk vetch.
I'm just wondering if it causes them grief too.
Red.
I wish I knew. Yeah.
Not so much Spicer milk vetch at this point.
Yeah, it says it can affect alfalfa, red clover.
Yeah, right over, yeah.
So I'm just wondering if this is something that should be on our radar out there, and it was brought up to me by an individual within the industry that said one of their concerns about the straw plant was this particular product, and we have it in the county apparently. Now, to what extent, who knows? It's not something that's on the Pest Act, is it?
No,
Not to my knowledge.
But they've had, yeah.
Thing I will say about it.
Test it, though, we wouldn't know common root rot from that, right?
Yeah, seed treatments would affect, and they would stop other types of root rot. So that would be, and most seed is treated when it goes into the ground. So if you had a treated field that was really exhibiting signs of root rot,
Then you know you have it.
then that would be a good place to check for sure. We don't have, you go out to Western Saskatchewan, it's wheat, geese, blacks, that's all you're growing, is the desert. But we're lucky enough that we get a bit of rain and we can grow a barley crop in between. So it's not as much of an issue here because we don't have that heavy pulse rotation. But, you know, rice peas goes up to $15 a bushel. That would fix that right away. So then we'd find it, I bet.
So is it something we just keep on the radar? Like, what's your guys' recommendation for this? Is it just something we don't care about?
Definitely something to be aware of. I would say talk to your agronomist.
And every fairly decent sized farmer has an agronomist that they deal with, right?
Be aware of it. If you see a drowned out patch, that looks like a drowned out patch, but there's no water, it's a good place to check. There's a lot of pictures out there that look, you can definitely tell where it's coming in from. And it's very delineated. Once you have it in, you know, this spot right here, but you don't have it right here, there's a line where it's affected and you're going to see it. So definitely good. Just check your crops. Go for a drive, check things out.
I usually get drunk.
I wasn't going to say anything, but
That was back in the old days.
go and check your crops.
Well, I think we've dealt with it. It's like common root rot, but it's a little more.
I just wanted to bring it up for information because it was brought to me.
To you bring it to here. That's where it comes from, goes to. Ernie?
Why does it matter if this emergency registration expired? Did it expire in March of 2016?
What?
Sorry,
Talk about exactly.
New farm received emergency registration from product Indigo. And right at the bottom of it, it just said that, this emergency registration expired.
That was the seed treatment.
It was only for the 1 year then?
That's what I understood.
Yeah, so the emergency registration expired and that's where
Well,
we're at.
then you have to get it permanently, right?
Exactly, yeah, it would have to be brought in through the PMR.
So did it work for them?
That is something I don't have in front of me.
If it must have been, they should have brought it forward on the.
Yeah, you would think. Yeah, you would hope that if it works, that it would be available, but it would have to go through all the safety regulations and whatnot.
Damn, they're obvious that it never worked.
Apparently not.
Yeah. Yep.
So we talked to root rot.
Received that for information.
For information, you give me that, James? All in favor? Carried. Now we're moving on right along. Sharps disposal guidelines, that'll be James's too, but Ryan will speak to it or Quentin? Ryan will.
Sharps injury, I found a pretty handy guide here, and I also spoke to a couple of people. So I spoke to the vets in our county. I spoke to Stellar Vet Clinic and Maverick Vet Clinic, just to see, you know, what do you use for sharps disposal. They both go through a company that comes in and collects their sharps for disposal. Sharps have to be disposed of at a class 2, level 2 landfill. Not all landfills obviously are up to that. So the injury prevention guide, there's not a lot of information out there as far as you have to do this, you have to do X. It's more of regulations against what you can do. You obviously can't burn on site, can't be burning garbage on site, you can't dispose of on farm, and you can't dispose of them at any other site other than a class 2, level 2 landfill.
Class 2 is the one at Big Valley?
Class 2, level 2, I'm actually not sure. I meant to check into what the
We are
standard one is.
class 2 out there, but I don't know about level 2. I know that like our landfill is, because Rennie said that he can take, like they take dead animals, which it has to be a class 2. So I don't know if they can take this with level 2, right?
I will find that out for the next meeting.
Yeah, I wish I would have had that. Sorry about that. But yeah, these companies that are doing this disposal, 2 of them that I spoke with were from Edmonton. Those were the companies that were used by the vets here in town. So there is a large market for it. I also spoke to a couple of confined feeding operations, their operators. They also use those same companies for pickup because they're going through enough sharps that they're basically, you know, more than a vet clinic.
I hope they pick
Up the sharps better than they pick up the dead pigs.
Yeah.
What kind of money do they pay for it? Like the Sharps container, do they have to pay to have it picked up?
You can have a Sharp, like, my understanding was they would provide you Sharps containers, but you're paying for the pickup.
And you know what that cost was?
It depends on what you're getting picked up, how often. There's a lot of variables, so.
Class 2, level 2 is what our landfill is.
Class 2, level 2.
What you said we needed for this, right?
So the one up at, that, they have to take it to, up by Wayne's Road there, or can they take it here on the collection site? Right here.
I would assume it would have to go to the landfill, that the transfer sites wouldn't be a class 2, level 2, because that's not where deads go. They have to go right to the landfill.
Yeah, it's more or less talking to the ones that are from waste management, but yeah. There you're up next.
That would be something that have to be checked, because if it just goes in a vacant garbage up to the landfill, it would make no difference in going into the collection site. So if somebody could check on that, that would be.
I tried to put mine in steel things, the steels. And throw away.
And you can use your own self-made containers too. That's also an option. You can use your own self-made containers for drop off at a landfill. Yep, or anything solid enough to stop a sharp, but as far as pickup goes by these companies, they're box only. Yeah. And that was my understanding. Maybe they'll collect other things, but that's kind of what I got.
Ernie? Yeah.
I was just kind of wondering, okay, like if they allow it to be landfilled up, I find it shouldn't be.
What do you want to
Well,
do?
so this was the question that was posed to me, because it was a vet that assistant that came to me and said, ask me if the county did anything, because they have a number of people with their clients within our county that were asking the question. And so they were looking to see if there was some sort of provincial program for pickup of these things, or what the situation was, right? And I'm not so sure about these the pickup sites. Are they actually picking up, or do you throw them in a mail, or how do they get them actually?
They actually come on site and pick up. So they'll pick up, maybe there's a mail option, but that was my understanding. They're doing trips. The two companies that I spoke to are picking up from vet clinics and confined feeding operations throughout the province.
Do they charge you more for if you were out in the middle of, let's say I'm down somewhere by the Erskine, let's say out at the water treatment plant. Say I got a big confined feeding operation out there. It's the middle of nowhere, or let's say Bymore, right? Middle of nowhere. I hate using you all the time. I myself.
I knew it was coming, but it wasn't in the middle of nowhere.
I know, I'm trying, I'm helping, right? I don't know, do they charge more, or what's the deal?
I would imagine so. I don't.
When you're out.
So Randy says they can only take them at the landfill. And he's got more information coming. I just asked if there's a fee for that type of thing to be collected there and what we're doing with them.
What does he want? What kind of containers does he want them in? Those ones there look like empty liquid Tide containers.
That's what they're saying, you can't build it in here, you can build your own. They're fine. Yeah. And I've seen that before, I have seen people using that before.
Because I thought it was always had to be in some steel, and you drop them in there and then you.
And I've seen people use coffee cans with the plastic lid, and then there's a hole in the top and people throw them in there. I mean, let's face it, there's a lot of small producers that will not, just don't do that, right? You just don't have the volume to go. I don't know. So that was brought up anyways, the fact that maybe as a move forward, the Ag Service Board could look at something that counties could help. Maybe we're a drop-off site, or maybe we're something else. I don't know. And if that's something we want to do as a provincial resolution to see if there's something go forward. Because this isn't just in our county. This is if you're living outside of Edmonton, those companies are probably picking up pretty easy. But if you are living out in Bymore or Hannah, I can see there being an issue.
The Bymore waste management thing there could have a thing that you drop them into, and
I'm not so sure I want to go down that road, because do we want to expose that to our our staff, right?
Yeah, this is considered
If
biomedical
it's
waste.
sealed
Right.
and of no threat, what's different from that than?
Well, you know, and I know that doesn't always come in that way. I can just see, you know, Bob coming in with a bag of sharps and.
That's what's happening right now, I think.
Yeah. So I think there's an opportunity here to be leaders. That's just my thought.
So
Quentin first, and then
information
Wayne.
from Mr. Doucette is that they don't require a specific container. Whatever you bring for sharps just goes in the pit, it's buried. Right now, that's how he's doing it. He said, most likely, they're in the burn barrels, they're in the garbage bins, they're at the transfer sites anyways, but he doesn't know that, right? Only assume they're going out with your, domestic trash. And there is no fee if you were to go up there with a container of sharps, there's no fee. It just gets buried in whatever you bring it. So maybe there's an opportunity for us to
Put it in the county connection.
create some sort of a sharps container that, I mean, that costs us money, but we can come up with some kind of an idea of, here's a sharps container, take this home to your feedlot. When it's full, take it to the landfill.
And I think this should be a provincial initiative, and I honestly think the provincial government should pay for it.
Go ahead, Sheree.
Oh, that's my next. I don't think we need to invent a container because they
No.
showed a whole bunch of, like Tide containers.
I
Maybe
used
we
to-
could just do a sticker that they could slap on it
Yeah.
and provide that.
It already looks like there is one though that you probably could buy or get somewhere. Growing Forward has them.
Well, on the one page they showed was, this is the type of sticker you could make, so.
Well, like Growing Forward has the sticker, and maybe that's something we put in you could easily put that in the county connections, right? And people could peel it right out and use it, just a thought.
Or they can pick them up.
Bring some awareness to it anyway.
I'm only making awareness to it, but they already told you where they can go. They put that in your county connection where the sharps can go. Ernie?
I find that I find it's actually very disturbing that to say, okay, you just put it into the landfill. One that you just run a packer over it, and if it happens to pick up in the packer, and if one of the workers happens to be touched by it.
Or our mechanics working on that packer.
No, I find this one very disturbing.
But that's where we're at now, right?
That's what we're doing, nothing now. So anything that we could improve on, I don't think the county wants to set up a gathering station for sharks, so, no.
Why not? Like it could be someone's life on the line.
Well, do it after it's a waste, right? Put it as waste management.
I mean, it's part of agriculture though, right? I don't.
Just be a good topic to bring up on the waste management, like for the Caribbees.
Well, and where I'm getting at is still that I think the province is abdicating their responsibility on this, in my opinion. Right? Agriculture in this province is how many $1 billion, Wayne?
Asking the wrong guy.
Well, you're always the one that tells me it's the third largest industry in the province, right? Or second now, I don't know. But I'm just saying that there is some responsibility as being the.
Well, there's responsibility on the owner that's using the sharps to dispose of them properly, as far as I'm concerned. That's only common sense.
Be able to accept it back, whether it's gonna be a vet, anyone that disperses these.
We just had a motion go through RMA about end of life manufacturer responsibility. So this should be part of that discussion.
Go ahead.
Receive for information.
Receive for information, Ryan, no?
Are we gonna get more information back?
I'm gonna get some more out of Ryan. Ryan's gonna find out talk to Rennie there and see if we can just not dump them in the thing without being sealed in something. Go ahead.
Maybe suppliers though too, they probably don't want all the bottles of past, because it also includes, this talks about your bottles, your glass bottles too, they probably don't want a lot coming back to their site, but you know, it's almost.
Hot bottles, they didn't used to either. They used to end up in the ditch, nobody wanted them, and then they put a bounty on them and.
Can we maybe have a letter sent to the waste management to just have that discussion at waste management to see what your thoughts are on that?
What the thoughts are on it, rather than just dump them in the pit.
I'll be honest, I know of a couple of people in town that are, they're giving their dogs injections on a regular basis and they're just throwing them in the garbage. So this isn't just a waste agriculture.
It's not just a farm thing. Ag service, not just an agricultural thing. You'll find that out for next meeting, bring it to the next meeting, and Ernie already received it for information.
Just to clarify, we're going to talk to our waste management up north, figure out if there's a better way, or try to figure out if there's a better way, find some other
Or if
options.
there's a place that if they bring them in proper containers, that we could collect them at the collection points too. Okay.
And Mr. Gander received your information with a letter of discussion at the waste management?
Yes, sure.
Well, I can find out what the next meeting is. Tomorrow.
Done.
Boy,
No, it's quite a ways off.
Well,
just talk about this.
Quentin and Ryan will send it to the next meeting, right? Okay. Ernie received it for information, all in favor? Carried.
Oh, you got 11.1.
10.3.
10.3, ag.
3.
But I sent a screenshot to Jared, if you could just pop that up now. It's just a ag awareness thing. I think it just shows we've got a long ways to go yet. And so I'll wait till it comes up. Okay, there we go. It's a news release about rains leave many Indiana farmers behind in planting. It says persistent wet weather has left many Indiana farmers well behind in their crucial spring task of planting corn and soybeans. And then the comment that came from this lady was, why is there a need for farmers growing corn and soybeans when most people go to Kruger's or Albertsons to get their groceries anyway? So why do farmers?
You can go right to the top of the dum-dum class.
So it just shows that we have a long ways to go, I guess, and
Hope nobody's kids me, man.
Okay, and then she's not gonna have any kids, and tell them that where the milk comes from is Walmart.
There was 50 replies to it.
There should have been 1,000.
That was probably just when this shot was taken.
Men coming.
Some people just put stupid stuff on there too, just to.
You have to get a rise out of some people. Okay.
okay, that's all I have about that.
Receive for information. Best will, all in favor, carried. Moving right along to the next one is Wayne's report.
Yeah, well, and I just, it's just what it is, it's, I sent it.
Did you include it in this at all?
It's up right now. An email out to everybody after you guys approved the issue.
Okay, yeah.
I emailed everybody.
So we're good?
Just what it is, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, we had talked a while back about this, about somehow getting either Ag Service Board or RMA to start buying garbage bags from these guys or buying the product that they're recycling. I think we really need to work on that because if we don't, what ends up happening with these companies, if they can't sell the product, and a perfect example is our tire crumb. There are millions of tires that have been recycled in the province and are just sitting with tire crumb. And there's probably another million tires that are waiting to be recycled because nobody's consuming the end product. These guys are making garbage bags, and I think as a provincial body, the Ag Service Board and the RMA sent out an email instructing our municipalities to purchase bags or where they can purchase bags from these guys will go a long way. I would rather pay an extra 10 cents a bag and know that it didn't come from China.
That's all fair and good, but there's actually two of these, so now we're just gonna do Clearview?
No, I'm just saying you do two. Whatever the two are, give the option. If you decide which one to buy, you buy. Right? At least, do you know where the bags are? I have no idea where to buy these bags from.
No, public,
Westland Recycling or something, or Western Recycling?
public awareness from these companies that are doing it though.
I get it, but one of the biggest ways we could help this product is buy this product.
it's a buy local product is, or idea is what I'm saying.
What we'll do with it is get Ryan or Quentin or whoever to look into this for the next meeting, and where you can buy it, where it's accessible to us, that we don't have to go to get it.
I think it's important that we send it to, what's that?
When we find out, we can also
Put it in the county.
Great idea.
Yep. Connor,
A really good idea.
where they can buy these ones that are going back with a local.
Yep. Okay, you got it, Ryan, Clinton, you got it?
Perfect. Quentin?
Good.
You good? Okay.
Want a motion for that, Mr. Chairman? to
Yeah, I'll
receive-
take a motion for it, yes.
Receive the report for information with some follow-up.
With, Ag Service fieldmen are going to have follow-up and come back with a solution. Yep, all in favor? Carried.
Wayne is, well,
No seminars, no nothing.
Any in the Recycling Council of Alberta or whatever it is.
No in-camera session. Need adjournment. Larry. First hand up. Carry on.
give you a motion.